So, my gripe with Greek mythology is that I feel like there's a huge chunk of it missing. And
I
I
mean,
get
probably.
frustrated because they don't act like there's a huge chunk of it missing. You know, when they talk about the fact that there's a large amount of Norse and pre-Norse mythology that's just kind of been wiped out. Like the Norse wiped out an earlier civilization that had their own mythology, and some of those got incorporated, but the rest didn't. And so there's sort of
Hmm.
echoes. I feel like some of that happened with Greek mythology, especially when the Romans got their hands on it. And so what we have is garbled, but it pretends not to be garbled because they want to pretend that there's a continuity between then and now. And I'm like, that some of the things don't make any sense. Like Cancer in half of the crab is described as being 10 feet tall in some um, internet sources, and then Heracles stepped on him and crushed him to death in others. And I'm like, and I
I
know,
mean, I think that's just the nature of mythology, though, because even like Norse mythology, also, there's echoes from pre-Norse cultures, but then also the whole Ragnarok thing was made up by a Christian monk who was writing it down and wanted it to be more like Christian mythology in Judgment Day. And like, yeah, it's mythology just does that, and I think that's pretty. I wouldn't say that anyone denies that
no,
particularly.
but it does. When I'm reading about the zodiac things, the zodiac animals and their myths, it feels like there was a really like solid body of work. Like, we're going to teach the kids how to watch the sky. How are we going to teach the kids how to watch the sky? We're going to make these animals and people, and they're going to be moving across the sky, and they're going to be having all these dramatic little infights, and this person is the daughter of this person, and this person killed this person, and like there's all of these stories that they could tell the kids to be like, hey, the sky moves. And this is why that's interesting. And the fact that we've got a large chunk of it, but it doesn't feel, it's like if we had if it's 1,000 years after Lord of the Rings and the Two Towers is missing, you know?
Hmm.
And people are like, oh, we think there's probably something in there, but this is good enough. And it's like, it's not good enough. It's not. I want more. I have decided that that's what I would use time travel for, is I would just collect all the myths that have been squashed, stepped on.
You're gonna need time travel. That's a lot of myths.
Yeah, yeah, and I would have to like pick up a babblefish on the way so that I could understand ancient languages that are being used. And but that would be like, I'd go around with a notebook and just write down what the people are telling around the fires and be like, ooh, this one didn't make it. And then I don't know, pretend to write it. Maybe that's what the soul
Entirely
badger was. A missing myth.
entirely unrelated, but
Hmm.
I am drinking a really delightful tea. It is a milk oolong. So it's
Ooh,
oolong tea with like milk flavoring or like milk essence is what it says in the ingredients.
what is the essence of milk?
I don't
Neat.
know, but it's delicious. Tastes kind of buttery.
Speaking of oolong, I just reread Tea with the Black Dragon. Um, and then I kept rereading the last couple scenes over and over because they just make me so happy. From the moment he sees her breath on the tarp and realizes she's not dead and stutters over his own name. And I'm like,
Dude, I haven't read that book in like 20 years.
it
I should
holds
probably
up.
go back to it if I'm going to be drinking oolong.
It's, yeah, yes. You need to reread it. It's just R.A. McAvoy's a wordsmith, and I just, man, I love someone who can write a sentence so good. I just read it 3 or 4 times, like, yeah, this could not have been put any other way. Yep. So speaking of wordsmithery, we've already read of Thingol and Melian, right?
Indeed.
All the way
We were
through.
talking. Yeah, so we had got to the bit where we were talking about the descendants of Finwë and our beloved Finarfin.
Finarfin. God, we got good.
We got pretty far last time.
Yeah.
Also, I am doing some cross stitch. I am cross stitching a move.
Mood. Mood. It's a good mood. It's not a mood man, is it?
It is not a move, man. It is only a move. So I'm gonna. There's a lot more to the
Tolkien
piece, but this is the very first one.
The Shores of Fairy. Look at that.
I can't see it. The resolution's not good enough. Oh wait, there we go. Close enough. Is that the Hill of Tuna?
It might well be. It might be Tyrion on Tuna.
I can't believe we were reading about tuna the same night that I got food poisoning from tuna.
From tuna. That's alarm.
This is what I get for mocking tuna.
That's what you get for mocking tuna. They couldn't get me because I don't eat tuna.
Well, neither do I anymore. Not for a while.
I used to like tuna in my mac and cheese, and now that I can't eat mac and cheese, it's like, well, never mind then.
Yep. I like.
I mean, I can. It just has to be gluten-free mac and cheese, and that's kind of
gluten-free macaroni. Just isn't quite. It ain't quite there.
Jovial is a brand that does gluten-free pasta that is actually pasta-like and not weird and gritty and gummy. So, lovely. Spreading the word. That's the brand to go for. And Char is the brand that makes very passable Ritz crackers. So if any gluten-free humans out there are like, I really wish I could have a Ritz cracker, you kind of can.
How did this get tangled? It's literally just been in my pocket. I am offended.
It's a tangly pocket.
It's a regular pocket. It is a shirt pocket.
All right. Did we already talk about how great Feanor was?
I think so.
We'll have to overlap a minute. We talked about mother of Feanor was Muriel Serinde, and the mother of Fingolfin and Finarfin was Indis of the Vanyar. Is that where we're at? Because we hadn't gotten to the Seven Sons.
We had not gotten to the Seven Sons. So I think we were right about there, like on that same page somewhere, but I don't recall exactly where. So maybe let's just start from talking about their moms again.
Yes. Indis, blah blah. Feanor was the mightiest in skill of word and of hand, more learned than his brothers. His spirit burned as a flame. Fingolfin was the strongest, the most steadfast, and the most valiant. Finarfin was the fairest. Finarfin. And the most wise of heart. And afterwards he was a friend of the sons of Olwe, lord of the Teleri, and had to wife Iarwen, the swan maiden of Alqualonde, Olwe's daughter. There's a lot of umlauts in that paragraph, and I don't think I'm pronouncing them properly, and that's going to have to be okay.
Look, if Tolkien scholars want to cancel us for not pronouncing our umlauts, I'll accept that.
I'll take it.
Because it will mean that they're watching our podcast.
We love you. Cancel away.
In order to cancel me, you have to know who I am.
It has occurred to me that I might ironically get famous and then get canceled or just get unfamous again right away. And I'm like, I could handle that. I'd be all right with it. I just want the brownie patch of being a household name for a week or a month or, for the right reasons.
Indeed, yes. Also, yeah. I'm sorry, brownie pouch?
Patch.
Oh, patch!
Did I say pouch?
Yes, patch. I was very confused.
Well, you see, brownies are covered in pouches like mutant kangaroos. Yeah.
I'm just not comfortable with knowing that much about the anatomy of brownies.
It's not anatomical. It's
What, a fashion choice?
fashion. It's a fashion thing. Yeah.
Brownies were designed by, oh God, what's his name that draws everybody with all the pouches and is also really bad at he's a comic book artist. He's really bad at anatomy, and he also draws everyone covered in like all of their costumes full of like utility belts with lots of pouches on them. Rob
Oh,
Liefeld.
okay. I'll look him up.
It's you'll I'm gonna preemptively apologize because you're gonna be real mad about the it looks like AI, except he was drawing it in like the 90s. So
So
he drew it that badly, like manually, which is sort of sadly impressive.
Uncanny Valley, Rob Liefeld.
He couldn't do
Oh,
feet at all. The feet are really upsetting.
okay.
I'm pretty sure you'll recognize his art when you see it.
Right? Maybe
I
just never heard
suspect.
the name. The seven sons of Feanor. There will be a quiz. Were Maedhros the tall, Maglor the mighty singer, whose voice was heard far over land and sea, Celegorm the fair, and Caranthir the dark, Cerufin the crafty, who inherited most his father's skill of hand, and the youngest, Amrod and Amras, who were twin brothers, alike in mood and face. In later days they were great hunters in the woods of Middle-earth, and a hunter also was Celegorm, who was the fair, if you haven't remembered,
I have not, indeed.
who in Valinor was a friend of Orome and often followed the Vala's horn. The sons, so I read this the first time and I was like, I'm not going to need to remember this. These it's just the seven sons that are listed, described, and I'm done. They are so crucial. You get so lost if you don't keep track, and it's fucking irritating because they all have names starting with C and M, and I'm like, that doesn't help me. Not that I would expect any different from Tolkien, who names people Sauron and Saruman, and
That is true.
yeah, yeah. So Celegorm fair, also a hunter. Caranthir, dark. Cerufin, crafty. Uh, Amrod and Amras, hunters again. And Maedhros and Maglor, tall, singer. Okay.
Okay.
We should mark the page just in case we need to check.
Probably a good plan.
The
I
sons of
think
Fingolfin, who are less important but still pretty damn important, were. I keep. It's all past tense, woman. The sons of Fingolfin were Fingon, who was afterwards king of the Noldor in the north of the world, and Turgon, lord of Gondolin. Oh, poor Turgon, lord of Gondolin. I love
yeah, he had a
Gondolin,
bad time.
right?
What with the death?
And destruction, mayhem. Yeah.
Yeah.
Betrayal. Gondolin will never fall if it's not betrayed. Oops, it's betrayed.
Uh, People gotta stop making prophecies.
Right.
There's always a loophole.
Ixnay. So their sister was Arathel the White. She was younger in the years of the Eldar than her brothers, and when she was grown to full stature and beauty, she was tall and strong, and loved much to ride and hunt in the forests. There she was often in the company of the sons of Feanor, her kin, cousins. But to none was her heart's love given.
Okay.
She might have been a lesbian. I'm just saying.
Well, she might be a lesbian, but she might also be an Arrow Ace icon.
And goodness knows we need more Arrow Ace icons, so
We do.
let's claim it. What was she called? Hang on. She was called Arfaniel she was called, the white lady of the Noldor, for she was pale, though her hair was dark, and she was never arrayed but in silver and white. Silver, white, pale face, black hair, and a hunter. Go forth, illustrators, and make this shit happen. The sons of Finarfin. Finarfin?
I can't not do it. I'm sorry.
Don't apologize. Were Finrod the Faithful. Fine and fair was Finrod the Faithful. His favorite month was February, and he fed on figs.
Up until the February part, I was not at all sure you weren't just straight up quoting.
Finrod
Like,
the
yeah,
Faithful,
that sounds like something Tolkien would say.
who was afterwards named Felagund, Lord of Caves. That's right, Finrod Felagund, the Faithful. And sons of Finarfin, or Orodreth, Angrod, and Egnor. He's just cheating at Scrabble at this point.
Darling, what shall we name our son? Egnor? Are you sure? It's fine.
Yeah. These four were as close in friendship with the sons of Fingolfin as though they were all brothers. A sister they had, are you ready for this?
Probably not.
Galadriel.
Oh! Well, shit.
Most beautiful of all the house of Finwë. Her hair was lit with gold as though it had caught in a mesh the radiance of Laurelin.
Well, oh dear.
I know. She's been around since the very beginning.
She's been around since the very beginning, and she had a lot of family that are not around by the time of Lord of the Rings.
But we don't know how many of them are dead and how many of them were just, like, went back to the Undying Lands. Anyway, here must be told how the Teleri came at last to the land of Aman. Through a long age they dwelt in Tol Eressëa, but slowly their hearts were changed, and were drawn towards the light that flowed out over the sea to the lonely isle. They were torn between the love of the music of the waves upon their shores, and the desire to see again their kindred and to look upon the splendor of Valinor. But in the end, desire of the light was the stronger. Therefore Ulmo, submitting to the will of the Valar, sent to them Osse, their friend, and he, though grieving, taught them the craft of shipbuilding. And when their ships were built, he brought them, as his parting gift, many strong winged swans. Then the swans drew the white ships of the Teleri over the windless sea, and thus at last and latest they came to Aman and the shores of Eldamar. Osse, their friend, who was grieving. Who is Osse? One of the Maiar?
Yeah, he's the one who like makes the storms and then his wife calms them down, but also
Okay.
he was really good friends with the Noldor, and then the Noldor decided to go to Aman and leave, and he got real sad.
Yeah, now he's getting sad again. Poor
Yeah,
Osse. No wonder he storms.
right. Also, if I was Ulmo, I would just be sitting there like, because every single time someone decides to go to Aman, he has to like send more transportations. Like, could you people just make up your minds, please?
Right.
I'm not an Uber driver. Come on.
There's just a shuttle between the two worlds. And also, these are immortal elf peoples that can, over the centuries, invent a boat. Do you
Maybe
just get
it's like
set
that
in your
whole.
ways?
What's that?
Do you just get set in your ways if you're immortal? Like, I have
I
invented
was
the
thinking that.
coracle and that's all I need.
Well, or it's like that Christian thing about angels not having the ability to create.
Oh,
You know,
right?
like elves are very well, but elves are not set like nobody ever said elves couldn't invent things.
Right? I'm
That's not part of
frustrated
the
with
elf.
these elves. They're making all the wrong decisions. They're in their long, if you're immortal, maybe you're like before your brain is developed, adolescence lasts like 500 years,
That could be.
right?
Because otherwise, wouldn't it be weird to be a child for the same amount of time as humans and then an adult for eternity?
It would kind of suck. You'd start to forget what childhood was like. You'd get less curious.
Yeah.
Unless you're Galadriel, who apparently just maintained her curiosity, and that's one of the things that made her such a good leader. There they dwelt, and if they wished, they could see the light of the trees, and could tread the golden streets of Valmar and the crystal stairs of Tyrion upon Tuna, the green hill. But most of all they sailed in their swift ships on the waters of the Bay of Elvenhome, or walked in the waves upon the shore with their hair gleaming in the light beyond the hill. They're like, we'll come, but we won't, like, abandon the things we like.
We're just gonna we'll be there, but maybe we'll come for dinner like once a week. Don't call us.
We'll call you. We'll dabble our toes in the sacred realm.
Here is the thing.
Many jewels the Noldor gave them, opals and diamonds and pale crystals, which they strewed upon the shores and scattered in the pools. Marvelous were the beaches of Elendë in those days, and many pearls they won for themselves from the sea, and their halls were of pearl, and of pearl were the mansions of Olwe at Alqualonde, the haven of the swans, lit with many lamps. So there were a lot more oysters.
That's what I'm getting here.
Yeah, I'm like, are there just yeah.
And then there was an overfishing problem, and that's why today we don't have that many oysters.
Right? That's why today we don't have oysters that make pearls that you can build buildings out of. These were special Valimar oysters.
Well, they were part of the megafauna extinctions.
And as happened with most of the megafauna, we're finding it was totally overhunting that did it.
That's debatable, honestly.
It's there's some evidence at least.
There is, but there's less evidence than there is, people talk about it more than there's evidence to support it.
Okay, I'll give you that. I think it's because it's one of the newer theories. Like the old theory was just climate change killed them. But then they started to find like knife marks on giant sloth bones, and they were like, we ate them.
Right. And then it's like, okay, we ate some of them, but I know humans are very voracious, but we can't there's only so many giant sloths one can eat.
You speak as one who knows.
No, if I had a giant sloth, he would be my best friend. Hold on. You need to see my face for this because I'm very serious. He would be my best friend, and I would take great care of him, and I would ride him everywhere I go instead of driving a car.
Yes.
This is my greatest dream.
A while.
But he's big, so the steps would be big.
It would be like the Riders in Dark Crystal.
Yeah, and I'd feed him avocados because avocados evolved to be eaten by giant sloths, and that's why they have giant seeds.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know they ate them. I didn't know that they were like.
Okay. Yeah, they were the primary whatever. Predator is not the right word. What?
Pollinator or seed spreader.
Yeah, they were the primary pollinator. So yeah, because that's why there's nothing big enough now to eat an avocado whole and poop out the seed, because that was the giant sloths, but now they're gone.
But if you had one, you would get it an avocado orchard and ride it everywhere.
I would.
Brilliant.
That's what I'd do if I had time travel.
Anyway, so here we are with the giant oysters making scads of pearls, halls of pearl. Pearl were the mansions of Olwe at Alqualonde, the haven of the swans, lit with many lamps. For that was their city. and the haven of their ships, and those were made in the likeness of swans, with beaks of gold and eyes of gold and jet. The gate of that heart. So I picture Viking ships, but with swan instead of dragon, and I'm like, that would be terrifying.
Right? Like swans are very
Scary.
formidable creatures.
They're yeah. but then you've got to picture the whole Viking like aesthetic in swan shape, and it just gets fucking ridiculous. Capes of feather instead of fur. Everybody with big black eyeliner to like
Okay, that one gets me. Yeah.
and the attack when they're raiding a coastal village, you scream squawk squawk and wave your arms like your like their wings.
All
The
right, this
Teleri are
embroidering
coming.
position is very visible but very uncomfortable. So, sorry everyone. We're not doing that.
Fair
Also,
enough.
you can't see my face, which is sad.
Yeah, we gotta see your face. Nah. Beaks of gold, eyes of gold, and jet. The gate of that harbour was an arch of living rock sea carved, and it lay upon the.
I have never understood the difference between living rock and dead rock.
Still attached to the ground is living rock,
Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense.
right?
I've heard that so many times, like it was carved from the living rock, and I'm like, how can you tell? They
If
all look
it's
like rocks to me.
if it is detached from the earth, it's dead, according to that verbiage.
Okay.
I don't know. I've heard dead rock speak, so I don't think it's true, but I think that's yes. Where was the beginning of that sentence? The gate of that harbour was an arch of living rock sea carved, and it lay upon the confines of Eldamar, north of the Cala Syria, where the light of the stars was bright and clear. I would have totally been a Teleri. They've got like the best of all the worlds. But they're the first that get slaughtered. Spoilers.
Well, it's a trade off.
As the ages passed, the Vanyar grew to love the land of the Valar and the full light of the trees, and they forsook the city of Tirion upon Tuna, and dwelt thereafter upon the mountains of Manwë, or about the plains and woods of Valinor, and became sundered from the Noldor. But the memory of Middle-earth under the stars remained in the hearts of the Noldor, and they abode in the Calasyria and in the hills and valleys within sound of the western sea. And though many of them went often about the land of the Valar, making far journeys in search of the secrets of land and water and all living things, yet the peoples of Tuna and Alqualonde drew together in those days. Finwë was the king in Tirion, and Olwë in Alqualonde, but Ingwë was ever held the high king of all the elves. He abode thereafter at the feet of Manwë upon Taniquetil. Feanor and his sons. Can you remember their names?
No.
Me neither. Abode seldom in one place for long, but travelled far and wide upon the confines of Valinor, going even to the borders of the dark and the cold shores of the outer sea. Now there's your problem. You go to the dark, it takes over your brain. Melkor proved it. You're just
When you stare into the void stares also into you. Bird watching goes both ways.
It does. It does. And that's a very evil bird. Or you're the bird.
Unclear.
And the cold shores of the outer sea, seeking the unknown.
What are you seeking? I don't know.
I'll know it when I find it. Often they were guests in the halls of Aule, but Celegorm went rather to the house of Orome, and there he got great knowledge of birds and beasts, and all their tongues he knew.
Oh, he's the hunter. What?
Yeah. Yeah. Orome is the hunter. Um, wait. Caligorm. Yeah, you're right. Caligorm the Fair? Hunter man?
Yeah.
Because Orome only hunted evil things. That's his, like, godlike quest, is
Hmm.
orcs and whatnot. But if Caligorm is just a hunter and he's learned the language of, say, the deer and the rabbits, that's kind of fucked up.
I mean, yes.
Mm.
I have no follow up. Like, I'm not. I was gonna say yes, but, and then I was like, no, there, no.
Yeah.
That's fucked up.
Caligorm, you're kind of sadistic. Caligorm went to the house of Orome, got great knowledge of birds and beasts and all their tongues he knew. For all living things that are or have been in the kingdom of Arda, including your giant sloth, save only the fell and evil creatures of Melkor, lived then in the land of Aman, and there also were many other creatures that have not been seen upon Middle-earth, and perhaps never now shall be, since the fashion of the world was changed. Ooh. You know what I'm
Well,
hearing?
rude.
They
Hmm.
have giant sloths in Aman.
That is indeed what I'm hearing, and also maybe even cooler things that we'll never see. Which,
Unicorns?
again, what? You could be,
Unicorns! Gotta have unicorns.
could be.
Yeah. Things we have no name for. We should, yeah. Yeah, that'd be a fun exploration. A Valinor bestiary. Chapter 6 of Feanor and the Unchaining of Melkor.
Was that Feanor's fault?
We don't know yet. I don't remember. Now the three kindreds of the Eldar were gathered at last in Valinor, and Melkor was chained. This was the noontide of the blessed realm, the fullness of its glory and its bliss, long in tale of years, but in memory too brief. In those days the Eldar became full-grown in stature of body and of mind, and the Noldor wait, so they were children when they arrived?
That is what I am hearing. Or like teenagers.
Teenagers. Yeah. Okay.
Because they can't have been children, because, like, some of them got married.
Thank you.
Like, and had their own kids. They cannot have been children.
So they were just reestablishing that they were teenagers for a really long time.
Yes.
And the Noldor advanced ever in skill and knowledge, and the long years were filled with their joyful labors, in which many new things fair and wonderful were devised. I like that we're acknowledging that it's a lot easier to be creative when you're not living in crisis mode.
We are. And
Right?
I also like that.
Yeah, that's good. Then it was that the Noldor first bethought them of letters, and Rumiel of Tirion was the name of the lore master who first achieved fitting signs for the recording of speech and song, some for graving upon metal or in stone, others for drawing with brush or with pen. It makes a lot of sense to have two alphabets. He's not wrong. In that time was born in Eldamar, in the house of the king of Tirion, upon the crown of Tina, the eldest of the sons of Finwë, and the most beloved. Ceru Finwë was his name, but by his mother he was called Feanor, spirit of fire, and thus he is remembered in all the tales of the Noldor. Miriel was the name of his mother, who was called Sorinde because of her surpassing skill in weaving and needlework. Again, I love that he's like, of course you know that Sorinde means seamstress in this language that I made up.
And we're like, yeah, sure.
Yeah. For her hands were more skilled to fineness than any hands even among the Noldor. The love of Finwë and Miriel was great and glad, for it began in the blessed realm in the days of bliss. But in the bearing of her son, Miriel was consumed in spirit and body, and after his birth she yearned for release from the labor of living. And when she had named him, she said to Finwë, "Never again shall I bear child, for strength that would have nourished the life of many has gone forth into Feanor." Wow.
So that sounds like postpartum depression. She should have probably seen a doctor about that.
Then Finwë was grieved, for the Noldor were in the youth of their days, and he desired to bring forth many children into the bliss of Aman. Slow down there, stallion. Shit.
Also, if you want to bring forth many children, why don't you get pregnant with them?
There you go. Have you seen? It's a complete random non sequitur, but um, someone did accidentally summon a genie. The genie says, "You've got 3 wishes," and he says, "I wish that every politician, male and female, in Texas wakes up tomorrow 27 weeks pregnant." And the genie goes, "Yeah, we'll do that, and you've still got 3 wishes." Yeah. And he said, "Surely there is healing in Aman? Here all weariness can find rest." But when Muriel languished still, Finwë sought the counsel of Manwë, and Manwë delivered her to the care of Irmo in Lorien. At their parting, for a little while, as he thought, Finwë was sad, for it seemed an unhappy chance that the mother should depart and miss the beginning, at least, of the childhood days of her son. "It is indeed unhappy," said Muriel, "and I would weep if I were not so weary. But hold me blameless in this, and in all that may come after." Bum bum bum.
I'm serious. Get that woman some Valium.
Yeah.
Like,
But
why
she's
is it
right.
in all
She's
of...
fucking right. She's like, yeah.
Well, and like, it reminds me of my deep annoyance with the whole Star Trek thing where it's like, oh no, she got pregnant and died. We have an advanced space civilization, but we can't cure that. It's like, okay, why do all of these magical and advanced scientific situations have no OBGYNs?
None. None. That's just not a thing anymore because men write the shows, I think.
Well, but like, also, Tolkien did not have OBGYNs in heaven.
Nope. Nary one.
It's just
Nor
like,
nor
well, go.
therapists. Nor if being in the blessed realm doesn't make you happy, they have no idea what to do with you. Yeah.
Typical Valar.
She right. God, they have not inspired us with confidence in their abilities at this point.
They have not.
No, their abilities, yes, just not their wisdom.
Yeah. Common sense, no.
She went then to the gardens of Lorien and lay down to sleep. But though she seemed to sleep, her spirit indeed departed from her body and passed in silence to the halls of Mandos. The maidens of Este tended the body of Muriel, and it remained unwithered, but she did not return. Yeah, very, very one eye in rap stuff in the Kings of the Broken Wheel, you know. Then Finwë lived in sorrow, and he went often to the gardens of Lorien, and sitting beneath the silver willows beside the body of his wife, he called her by her names, but it was unavailing, and alone in all the blessed realm he was deprived of joy. After a while he went to Lorien no more. Okay, so that's a pretty traumatic childhood.
Mm-hmm. That
And
explains some things about Feanor.
it
Like,
really does. It's a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. Like she's got this vision that he's going to wreck the world, and she's very depressed about it. And her depression is what starts the whole thing ball rolling. Like,
and then the cycle of generational trauma does its thing, and next thing you know, Melkor's been unchained.
Right? Oh, yeah, we need to get there, don't we?
I mean, eventually.
All his love he gave thereafter to his son, and Feanor grew swiftly, as if a secret fire were kindled within him. He was tall and fair of face and masterful, his eyes piercingly bright, and his hair raven dark, in the pursuit of all his purposes eager and steadfast. Few ever changed his courses by counsel, none by force. Oh, misery for his teachers.
Right? Also, he sounds like a dick. Let's be
Yeah,
honest.
he does. Very full of himself. Got a
Mm-hmm.
little narcissistic complex here.
Yep.
He became of all the Noldor, then or after, the most subtle in mind and the most skilled in hand. In his youth, bettering the work of Rúmiel, he devised those letters which bear his name, and which the Eldar used ever after. And he it was who, first of the Noldor, discovered how gems greater and brighter than those of the earth might be made with skill. Cubic zirconium. Feanor did it first.
Oh, what's the other one?
Oh, Swarovski crystals?
No, no, it's like it's a lab created diamond that's like much sparklier than diamond, but I can't remember what it's called.
I can't either, but yeah, Feanor did it first.
Mhm.
Which means Feanor had a lab, which is really fun to picture.
That'd be a fun illustration.
Yeah, Feanor in his lab coat with his beakers, but they're like um Art Nouveau beakers.
Well, I was just thinking it'd be steampunk but Art Nouveau.
Yeah, yeah.
That'd be a really cool illustration.
That would be so cool. Yes. The first gems that Feanor made were white and colorless, but being set under starlight, they would blaze with blue and silver fires brighter than Helluin. And other crystals he made also, wherein things far away could be seen small but clear, as with the eyes of eagles of Manwë. So he's,
He also invented glasses. Yes, check.
well, a not telescope.
Telescopes. Yeah. Te yeah.
Yeah, yeah, just probably handheld ship captain type telescope.
Yeah.
Yeah. As with the eyes of the eagles of Manwë, seldom were the hands and mind of Feanor at rest. It's funny how often the best advances in human technology are made by absolute dickheads, and Feanor is like a condensation of all of that.
It's really unfortunate. Of course, then again, there's a lot of absolute dickheads who take credit for advances they didn't make. So there's that too.
We see you, Edison, you big shithead.
Yep.
Yep.
Fucking Edison, man.
Couple more. I think we can do another paragraph. While still in his early youth, he wedded Nerdanel. Nerdanel. Oh my god.
Nerd now.
Nerdanel, the daughter of a great smith named Martan, among those of the Noldor most dear to Aule. And of Martan he learned much of the making of things in metal and in stone. Nerdanel also was firm of will, but more patient than Feanor, desiring to understand minds rather than to master them, and to understand minds rather than to master them. Okay, that's where the. And at first she restrained him when the fire of his heart grew too hot, but his later deeds grieved her, and they became estranged. When your elvish wife, who's endlessly patient and clever, is done with your shit.
Right? When you are the only known elvish divorcee.
Like, you really need to rethink your life. 7 sons she bore to Feanor. Her mood she bequeathed in part to some of them, but not to all. Oh, I know it's late, but we've got one paragraph left before a gap, so let's do that.
Let's do that.
Now it came to pass that Finwë took as his second wife Indis the Fair. She was a Vanya, close kin of Ingwe the High King, golden-haired and tall, and in all ways unlike Miriel. Finwë loved her greatly and was glad again. Oh, good for him. Bless his heart.
Yeah.
But the shadow of Muriel did not depart from the house of Finwë, nor from his heart, and of all whom he loved, Feanor had ever the chief share of his thought. The wedding of his father was not pleasing to Feanor, and he had no great love for Indis, nor for Fingolfin and Finarfin, her sons. How can you not love Finarfin?
How dare you? This is just more proof that Feanor's a dick.
Yep. He lived apart from them, exploring the land of Aman, or busying himself with the knowledge and the crafts in which he delighted. In those unhappy things which later came to pass, and in which Feanor was the leader, many saw the effect of this breach within the house of Finwë, judging that if Finwë had endured his loss and been content with the fathering of his mighty son, the courses of Feanor would have been otherwise. Oh, victim blaming!
Yeah, it is absolutely not Finwë's fault that Feanor turned out to be a dick.
Right?
I will not stand for this talk.
Evil might have been prevented. Ugh. For the sorrow and the strife in the house of Finwë is graven in the memory of the Noldoran elves. But, the children of Indis were great and glorious, and their children also, and if they had not lived, the history of the Eldar would have been diminished.
Yeah.
Yeah! Hail Finarfin!
Finarfin!
Finarfin! Finarfin's a boy! Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sentence always makes me angry. Like, no, leave Finwë alone. Let him have happiness. He had to watch his wife die on purpose. Like,
yeah. And then, like, her body's just still lying there.
Yeah.
Which
Like,
is creepy, also. Could they do something with that? Like, come on.
They probably put it in a glass coffin, and that's where we get our whole Snow White story from. But can you imagine the lack of closure? Like, it would be like having a person in a coma. You're like, ugh.
No, I mean, that's exactly what it is. Her body's still breathing, but her spirit has gone, and they know that her spirit is gone, but her body's still breathing, so what are they supposed to do?
Right?
And
Yeah,
unlike a patient, that's going to continue forever.
Yeah, I'm glad he turned his mind to other things. I'm glad he found happiness. Fuck Feanor. He doesn't deserve to have any. Like, maybe other people's decisions would have been if other people's decisions were different, Feanor would have turned out different. Like, no, he wouldn't. No, he wouldn't. We have established this.
No, he wouldn't. Like, oh, if only my daddy had devoted all of his attention to me. It's like, he did. He just also got married, which he's allowed to do.
He's allowed to do that. Like what was he? Was he supposed to sit and just stare at the wall while you're off, like, looking to the outer shores to find the hidden truths that are in darkness? And spoiler alert, the hidden truths in darkness are there is darkness within you, and if you feed it, it will grow, and you'll ruin shit. That's my sum up of the Silmarillion.
Well, on that note, I have made a certain amount of progress on the moth.
Moth! It looks like a Miller moth.
Maybe. I don't know. It's the original pattern is like there's a little heart in the moth body, and like the original pattern's all in like pinks and reds. It was a Valentine's Day thing.
Oh,
so
I love it. It's so subtle.
It's really subtle. Like, it's even more subtle in person than it is on camera. You can barely tell the difference between the different greens.
That's so cool.
But I kind of like that.
Honestly, they don't look green, they look gray. But I love it regardless. And I love you.
I love you too, and I will see you next week.
Yes. Cuidado.
Lianas.